I'm Father John Kalomas. I'm the parish priest, Proistamenos of the Hellenic Greek Orthodox Church in Justice, Illinois. And today I'm going to speak to you about the theme of guilt, especially the issue of guilt, what I've seen on my 33 years of my priesthood and throughout my experiences of people, of how guilty they feel when they have to go into a hospital room, especially with loved ones that are on life support, and that they have to make a choice of whether to stop the life support or not to stop it. And the guilt is the worst thing, because guilt is what creates a very, very difficult life for us later on. And we must have the scenario of not to feel guilty. Think about a child going in and having to decide if a parent is there and I'm going to have to stop life support. Think about a mother or a father having to stop life support for a child. I remember when I first was, it was maybe when I was 4 years a priest, I had just was transferred from the Church of Assumption, where I was an associate pastor, assistant to Father Masouras, and I went for my first parish was Holy Cross, where I am now again. And I had gotten a phone call around 3 o'clock in the morning, and it was a father asking me to come down to the hospital, which was in the city. It was actually Cook County Hospital, where all the trauma gunshot issues take place. And the situation was their daughter was shot in the head, 3-year-old, by her brother, who was 5 years old. The brother found his dad's gun because they lived in a very difficult neighborhood and he'd been robbed many times, and the father got a gun to protect his family. And the child, the boy who was 5 years old, did not realize it was a real gun, and he thought it was a toy, and he shot his sister in the head. She was still alive when I went there, and they were running tests to see what was going on. And the levels of it was that the doctors had told me that it doesn't look very good. And so the next day in the morning, they had to make a choice, because after all the different tests they did to see brain function and all that, there was no brain function. The child was clinically dead. The only thing that was keeping this child alive, this 3-year-old, was life support, the machines. And that's all there was going to happen. And so the parents had to make a difficult decision on this, and they weren't sure what to do. And I told them that realize one thing, that, you know what, the life of this child is now in God's hands. As much as it's hard to say this, because when you say it to a parent, it's very, very tough. We can deal with a little better with the issue of our parents as children having to do this, but still, whatever it is, it's a choice. And the only thing that gave him solace was that this child, that it would never come back again in this world, was able to give life to 5 other children, because they donated her kidneys, her heart, her lungs, and even her eyes for a child to see this, and the liver. So this was able to be shown that some type of guilt was taken away from the parents from having to pull the life support. So why do I say this story? Is because this is many times what we have to go through. We walk in and we see what the doctors will say, and we're scared. We're scared because you know what we want to do. We know what God wants. We're praying to God. Please, God, give us this, give us this, give us this. You know, and there's many times we see the answer is not that God doesn't answer it. Many times God says no. And we don't know why. We don't know why it is. How do we deal with it? How do we be able to deal without having guilt? We must first realize why we are going into this room. And when we realize we're going to this room, we must prepare ourselves in the scenario of that. What is the best situation that we can do for our loved ones? Suffering is tough. And suffering happens not only for the person that may be suffering from this ailment or may be brain dead or whatever. The suffering falls on our shoulders too. But then, of course, when we tell them, pull the plug, we walk away and we feel guilty. We feel guilty. Why did we kill my parents? Did we kill our children? Did we kill this person that we chose to remove the life support? And that's the one thing that we have to realize, how evil manipulates itself into this scenario instead of looking at what is the next step. The next step is that this person has taken the next step into the next world. The life continues. But the next step also means, what are we going to do in the next step? How are we going to handle it? Well, we have to also, when that happens and that choice is made and the person does pass on, we have to make the choice and say to ourselves, I did the right thing. I did make the right choice. And the church will tell you, the church will be there to tell you, if this person was in a scenario, if this person was in a situation of no lifelessness except by machine, then the correct is correct. Because if you pull the plug on someone, it takes a little time. Realize one thing. If God wants this person to live, you can have him off the machines. He'll come back. But if God says, no, life has come to this point and it's time to move on, there's nothing we can do. And so what happens is, what do we do after? How do we live our lives after? We must live our life in realizing that this issue of life as it was at that point does not exist. The issue of life, what it was previously, and this is where memories come in, is what carries us in this part. Yes, there's going to be a mourning session. Yes, there's going to be a session, a point of life. But reality is, one thing that allows mourning to last forever and ever is guilt. That we feel guilty. Guilt does not allow ourselves to heal. Guilt keeps us from healing. Guilt keeps us from seeing the beauty of what this person was. We destroy it. We forget it because guilt encompasses so much of what we wanted, why it didn't happen, but then we feel guilty, and it doesn't allow us to see the beauty of what we carried, of the memories that have been left behind. There's an important story that talks about the train of life and how the train of life is something that we go through, and the first people we meet on our train is our parents, because we're there on birth, and we think they're going to be with us, but you know well enough that in some station, our parents are going to step down. And the issue is that leaving us on this journey alone. Do we feel guilty because our parents stepped down? Whatever form they step down, there is a point in our lives that we have never cannot allow guilt to be part of it. And then as we go through life, many more people will board your train. Some will be significant, brothers, sisters, siblings, friends, and even maybe the love of your life that comes through. Many people will step down from this train and they'll leave a permanent vacuum. Others will go so unnoticed we don't even realize they left. The train line will be filled of fantasies, joy, happiness, hellos, goodbyes, sorrows, farewells. The most important thing about it is that we have to live a very good relationship with everybody that's on that train. Give lots of love. Be part of everything. Because the mystery of this is we don't know when we're going to step down and leave our seat empty. So when we do step down, we want to leave behind what your loved ones will leave behind. The beauty of the legacy, the beauty of great memories that you have shared. That's the one thing that guilt destroys. It destroys the beauty of the memories. And this is one of the reasons why that we cannot allow guilt to come into our lives when we have to make those tough decisions. I'm not saying it's easy. The only way I have found of helping families to make those right decisions of guilt, to remove it, is to be able to pray first. To pray to God to give you the strength to be able to understand what you're doing. And I know sometimes it's hard to say, yes, do it because it is our mother. Yes, do it because it is our child. But the thing is that what is the levels that are there? Because what happens then is as this person suffers, if we don't do it, you suffer along with them. And what happens then is when they finally do expire, the issue is that you do not allow, because guilt, the healing process to take place. And this is what guilt, as I said before, destroys. So what guilt must be is removed from your life. Don't ever feel guilty if you have to make hard decisions for these situations of family members. Don't leave the situation because you will never remember the beauty or the legacy of what that loved one was. A mother once told me that when she had to bury a child, she said to me that on the day of her funeral, that today God was asking her a question. And the question was that if I gave you a gift and in 18 years I wanted it back, would we accept the gift? Because the mother felt guilty that she did not take care of, protect her child, because the child drowned. And she felt guilty about this. And I said to her, I think we have to say yes, we'd have to accept the gift because it's from God. And she corrected me. She says, not just it's just from God, but we would never, ever know the 18 years of joy that this child gave me. And so everything comes to circumpasses back together. The mourning is all part of it, everything. We all talk about everything that has to do with death. But the guilt is what destroys it. The guilt is what keeps us from growing to the next level. The guilt keeps us from realizing what a beautiful person this was. And the guilt keeps us from realizing those years of a gift that God gave us. Because we become so depressed, so sad, that we do not allow the healing process to come in. So, my beloved, what I can just say in regards to guilt is destroy it. The way God destroyed death, the way Christ destroyed death. Destroy it, remove it from that. Don't feel the guilt. Guilt is a negative part. Guilt is a negative situation. It's one of the worst things. Because if we feel guilty, our souls will always feel guilty. But if we feel the beauty of mourning, not from guilt, but because of the loss, then the healing process will come out. And guilt will never be able to cover that beauty of that person that you lost in this life. I wish you all the blessings and always remain guiltless from what Christ told us and what Christ did. Christ removed guilt from our lives when he died on that cross. Don't ever have the guilt in the beauty of it, especially in the decisions that you make in regards to your loved ones, especially when you're looking for the beauty. We don't go out to kill them. And always the whole thing is, we go out that God will take them before us. But if there comes the point that we have to make the decision, make it through the church, make it through the beauty of what God gave this person, make it through the importance of the sustaining of life and the sustaining of life in the next world, of giving it into God's hands. So when you pull that instrument, trust me what I say, if God wants a person to stay, you could pull that and think he's going to go, God will bring that miracle in. But if he wants that person, you have to give him back to God, because that's the gift that God gave to you. Thank you.